Mike Howard, it is so nice to see you
Lisa,
again.
really? Good
How
time in
awesome
Detroit.
to be here having this amazing Nitric Oxide Summit.
It's excellent. Learning a lot. It's very, it's so cool because everyone's so fragmented around the country. And you get to know people pretty well through the 2-dimension. But to actually get everyone together at one time in 3-dimension and be able to share
Power
time.
in that room, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of power. There's a lot of people that are just like they're looking at it saying, wow, there's really a lot of great people around. I'm not alone in this. And that's what builds the power.
Now, I know in your past, you've done a lot of marketing, you've done a lot of sales, you've been extremely successful. Can you share a little bit about your background before Cardio Miracle?
Well, I had my first paper route at 13, but you don't want to go that far back. But I've had an interesting life. I started off in the wire mills of Worcester, very blue collar. I'm a dropout. I dropped out of college. Didn't really feel the fit when I was in college, so I went the work route. And my dad admonished me about it. He said, "You're being a fool. You got to go to college. College opens doors." But I went in the working world and I got blue collar, but then I found a wonderful opportunity in a white collar job, which was with a computer company. And I had a 10-year career. And I learned how to work in a corporate environment at a fairly young age, like age 21 to 30. And it was an eye-opening experience because I advanced myself through building relationships with people. And I went from entry-level job, $4 an hour. And that's what they paid you in the 80s.
I know.
And I ended up leaving that company in 1990 to start a new career. And I was earning $50,000 a year. And that was a lot of money then. That's probably worth $1.50, $200 nowadays.
Yeah.
But I opened up a new door because during that 10-year career, I realized that I had a skill to motivate people.
Amazing.
And I worked on it. I got involved with the personal growth industry.
So where do you think that came from? Where do you think that bubbled up from, that motivation?
I don't know. I think it might be humble beginnings. My dad was not like, we weren't poor by any means, but my mom ran a household of 8 children, and my dad was an engineer who came out of the big war, and he went to college and got his engineering degree. But they were real humble people. But I know my dad was a leader, though. You could tell, and I think my track was based on my dad's experience as a person that was able to. Like he coached a lot of kids in Little League and basketball and all those sports. He was very into that. So I was around that environment. But yeah, so when
he encouraged you.
Yeah, so I took a big leap. I went to this guy who everyone knows now, Tony Robbins.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
yes.
He was very up and coming in the late 80s, early 90s.
He sure was.
Yeah, he was up and coming then. He was, he was a national bestseller. One bestseller, and people knew who he was, but he was about to explode. And I bought a franchise. I took, my savings and I bought a franchise for the Boston area. And it was a training franchise.
Wow.
And I didn't realize at the time that I thought I was going to keep my computer job. And as soon as I went to the 3-week training and came home, I said, I got to have to leave my computer job. Because I thought I was going to teach.
What a leap of faith for you.
Yeah, it was dangerous. It was tough. And I, figured out a way to do it where I was, able to have some money aside for a couple of years, knowing it would take time. But that 10-year experience was mind-blowing because I learned so much about sales, marketing, leadership, platform speaking, the ability to get up every day unemployed and make money. Because that's what it is when you work for yourself.
So what is the one, the number one that you would teach people? What is number one in the motivational clinics or seminars?
The number one thing people need to do is learn how to direct and control their emotional states. That's the number one skill of life.
That's really important.
It's not really what we call, motivation is, it could be a motivational speaker, rah, and people get all hopped up and excited, and then the next day they're back to normal. But you got to teach skills, and a skill to direct and control your emotional state every day. And so first thing you have to do is understand how many emotional states you have during the day.
Interesting.
And human beings, unless they have mental illness, they usually only experience, and we've done polls, like thousands of them, we ask people, write down all the things you feel in a day. And the exercise is over rather quickly because most people only write like 8 to 10, maybe 12. Some people 15 or 20, but most people it's like 8 to 12 emotions a day. I feel fear. I feel anger. I feel happiness. I feel sadness. I feel anxiety. So the question is what's so hard about controlling and directing and managing 10 to 12
coming
emotions?
back to that original question is, don't you think today, fast forwarding for a moment to today, because of the current fear factor in our environment, what's going on in our country, I think, I mean, myself included sometimes, that fear sneaks in on you, right? I mean, that controls decision-making, that controls even whether you take care of yourself or not. I mean, we are right now living in a country that is controlled by fear and dominated. So can you imagine teaching that today, right? Versus what you were teaching years ago? Would you say it would be harder today?
Yes, it's difficult and it's simple because there's really two ways to direct and control your emotional state. One is to ask yourself better questions.
Yeah.
And the second is to move your body. Physiology. We call it physiology, the ability to move your body in a way that will change your state. Most people use drugs, alcohol, cigarettes. They use, sex. All those things change our state. But so doesn't breathing deep, yoga, right?
Yeah.
So doesn't
and
exercising. Exactly.
And nutrition, yes.
So those are the two and people are addicted to food. So if you can learn how to ask yourself a better question, instead of saying, oh my gosh, what a terrible day it is out there.
Correct.
It's raining. When I would say, it's a great day to catch up on some stuff in the cellar. That's how you change your state. But people just don't have the tools because we don't teach them the tools in school. These are simple things that young kids should learn.
Well, think about it today. You got TikTok, you got all these different influencing factors, right?
Yeah.
That are coming into our life. We got Facebook, we got instant messaging. Everything is instant. You got instant Amazon. We live in this society where it just perpetuates that fear and anxiety and impatience. And then ultimately it affects the way that we react around us and to other people, right?
Yeah. We may be over the cliff already because of technology is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I was in the tech industry in 1980. I was sending emails out to Australia within my company before most people knew what email was.
Yeah.
But you got to know how to shut it off.
Wow.
I shut my phone off all the time at the end of the day. I only use my phone for work. My daughter and son-in-law, they have the phones attached to their heads.
Yeah, everybody does.
And I don't have any social media on my phone. I don't really care for it. I'm a phone guy. I use my phone. If you looked at, how your phone could tell you what you're doing on your phone, it's about 80% phone calls. I've learned to embrace the phone, which was my greatest fear at one time. But you've got to learn to associate the fact that when the phone rings, it's an opportunity to offer somebody value. When you call somebody, you're offering them, you're not an interruption.
Well, wouldn't you say that communication is a form of caring? Because if we don't communicate, people get the impression we don't care.
Sure.
So communication is so vitally important. And I know that you do that beautifully here at Cardio Miracle.
Thank you.
And everything that you learned, back to the franchise. But imagine today, if young people were to buy a franchise. I think what is super cool about the company that we're talking about today, Cardio Miracle, you don't have to buy a franchise.
Yeah,
right?
we're
and you're not only somebody that's talking to people on the phones every day, but you're a coach. You're a real coach. Look at how God used all your experience to bring you today, and now you're coaching.
No, it's
people.
funny because, see, John's company is awesome, and I was a customer for 4 years. Now it's been over 4 years, 4.5 years.
Yeah, tell us how that journey.
Yeah, I saw it. Jeff Hayes Films, John Hewlett. There were 10 new supplement companies. John was one of them. I was attracted to John's product. I bought it, went on the subscribe and save, used it for 3 years, in and out, all during the COVID era.
What did you feel? What was your first?
I just know it was protecting my health because I saw all the vitamins, minerals that were in there. I knew about vitamin D.
You knew about nitric oxide?
I didn't know anything about nitric oxide.
Wow.
I just knew that quercetin, vitamin D, and zinc were very good for
So you took it just specifically
system.
for those reasons?
I was hoping to strengthen my immune system.
Amazing.
Because I knew what was coming, the
Yeah.
virus. But then I in March of 23, 3 years later, I reached out to John, and he had given his cell phone number out on one of his webinars. You know how he does the webinars? And I'm a sales guy, so I put his phone number in my phone, figuring I might want to call this guy someday. And I did a year later. And he took my call, and we talked about a medical issue I was experiencing and if Cardio Miracle would counteract with it. And he gave me his opinion, and I asked him, I was looking, I goes, do you have opportunities within your company? Because I remember someone calling me when I started the product 3 years ago, like an ambassador. They were calling me and they were saying, I goes, you still do that? He goes, oh yeah. He goes, you interested? I goes, yeah, maybe part-time. I'm kind of looking for something to do. He was semi-retired at the time. And so I got a hold of his son, Josh, and before you know it, March of 2023, which is now like 18 months ago, I started making phone calls. I call it going through the humility gate because, it's like entry level, but it's so important to learn the bottom of a company. And how do you learn more than learn from a customer? You don't.
That's right. That's really important.
Right.
And you probably to date have listened to thousands of phone calls. Thousands of praise reports. What is the one that you remember that really left an impression on you?
Well, there's so many, but there's one that is interesting because it was this guy from Texas, and he was a builder, outdoor builder. And, he had his Texas twang, and I got my Boston accent. So it was an interesting conversation, to say the least. But he said, my whole life, I've never slept. And I goes, you kidding me? I says, you build houses outside in the hot Texas sun.
Oh, my goodness.
He goes, I have insomnia my whole life. He goes, but I sleep like a baby now because of Cardio Miracle.
Is that right?
And I goes, this is so weird because then I've heard people tell me it gives them more energy.
Yeah.
So, and I've got, so many.
Well, that's what an adaptogenic is. That's
adaptogens. Yes, it's absolutely true. It's
all
what
the
your body needs.
In the product, right?
The product adapts to what your body needs.
So we'll go back to the wisdom of the body. If we listen to our body, the body speaks to us, right?
Absolutely.
So that's very interesting. So it was able to help him sleep.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'm sure his productivity increased.
And he's a happy man because he never slept.
That's amazing.
Must have lived off caffeine,
Wow. And again, there's no caffeine, no sugar in the product.
Yeah.
That's what I think is so fascinating.
It's exceptional.
It gives you energy, true cellular energy, increases your blood flow throughout your body, increases the nitric oxide, and then also all the other nutrients in the product. What else did you find out that you started to experience after taking the product?
Well, for me, I got, I'm an old Tony Robbins guy, and I did leave the organization at one point to do my own consulting. And I did that through the 2000s, and I got more related into the health, more of the alternative health, I should say, which would be nutraceuticals and nutritional products. And I've been around that for about 20 years now. So Tony started a new company with Dr. Diamandis, and it's called Life Force.
Oh, yes.
And it's a company that they do your blood panels 4 times a year. You talk to a practitioner 4 times a year, and you talk to a personal trainer coach 4 times a year. But then you have your platform and you're a subscriber. You pay X amount of money a month. So I started doing those panels about almost over 2 years ago. And with Cardio Miracle, I had started Cardio Miracle probably a year before I started. But my cholesterol had been over 200 before I started Cardio Miracle. And because I get it done quarterly, and we do what we do is 45 biomarkers that my Life Force does, not just your lipids and your metabolic. And it really gets into it. And my coach, he's a doctor. He'll go through everything. And he says, Mike, you're 86% optimal in all your biomarkers. And he goes, that's not normal. He says, it's optimal. He goes, the problem with most, Western medicine is that they'll tell you you're normal.
Right.
But it's not optimal. And Life Force.
That's a really important point to make.
So Life Force, that whole thing, they're working with me, a 65-year-old man that wants to be optimal. So the good news is based on all the information the biomarkers, like my cholesterol is at 145, my triglycerides are down well below 100.
Fantastic.
My HDL and LDL collaborate properly. My C-reactive protein is way down. My calcium's way down. So I don't really probably not going to have a heart event, you know.
That's awesome.
But the coolest thing is I'm 65, and according to Life Force, I'm 59. So
Congratulations.
I'm 6 years younger than I am.
That's amazing.
So if I can get the only thing that's not optimal are my T levels. So I'm working on that. And once I get them up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, my wife will be scared of me. But I probably get my age down a little bit more.
Mhm.
My chronological age is 65, but based on all my indicators, I'm 59. So that's exciting. And I believe
That is fascinating.
that Cardio Miracle has a lot to do with it. I
it.
believe that wholeheartedly.
Because literally you're satisfying the needs of all the cells.
I'm using the
in your
product
body.
all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
All the time.
That's fantastic. Anything else you want to share? The most
Well, let's
encouraging
talk
part?
about, you know, I told you earlier how I was in the computer industry in the early
Correct.
days, and it was a great career. I worked for $1 billion company. Actually, it was a $12 billion company back in the 80s, so probably would be a $100 million company. Then I went to work with Tony Robbins, right when Tony was fledging and getting ready to rock and
Yeah.
roll, and then I was part of that.
You're
okay?
part of the wave.
Part of that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, working in the
Correct.
wave. Right? And now I'm here with John Hewlett's company.
Yes.
I've seen this type of thing happen. I've been in it.
You can feel it.
It's happening again.
Yeah. You can
So
feel
when
it.
John asks if people are all in, yeah, I am.
All in.
All in. Matter of fact, we need T-shirts. All in.
All in.
That's all we need to write. All in.
Oh, well, thank you so
All right,
much, Mike.
Lisa,
You're amazing.
Always a pleasure. to
Thank you
speak
so
with
much for your caring through communication.
Thank you.
You're our angel.
All right.
God bless you.
Be well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.